Hi.
Hey, Simone.
Hello. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Hello,
Okay.
everybody that's joining.
Hey, I'm just sharing. I got my daughter in here playing her video games. I said, I'm getting ready to go on live, girl. You need to be quiet. She told me, how many days you gonna go live?
Hey, Dara. Hello, Auntie Donna. Hello, Carrie. Very on time. I love it.
Right on time. All right.
All right. So I'm Simone Beeson with Realty One Group Innovation. I'm also a part of the DV Lux House Group, which is led by two amazing women, Donna and Valentina. Our team also has one other agent, Trinity Starnes. We also have a transaction coordinator, Lucy. We have a client relationship manager, Cindy, along with a fabulous content manager, Hatch. So tonight I'm joined by Arlesia Jones, a mortgage broker who has successfully closed on several transactions for our team, to talk about one of my favorite topics, and that is how you can become an investor for the first time. So, Arlesia, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, hi everyone. My name is Arlesia Jones. I am a mortgage broker. And so, what that means is I don't work for one particular lender. I am a broker and I like to say I work for the client. So, that means I am able to find the best product based on your needs. I am from South Florida, but I'm physically located in Dallas, Texas. I moved here several years ago. And I'm licensed to do loans in several different states. I've been doing mortgages for about 7 or 8 years now. I started out as a realtor, but that's kudos to all the realtors because that's just not my forte. Okay.
Naturally.
I like this side of the transaction a lot better. And I just like helping clients, and I'm super excited to be on this afternoon to talk about, or this evening to talk about tips for, becoming an investor and things that we all can do so that we can build wealth through real estate.
All right, I love it. So, one of the things, the first question that enters my mind that probably a lot of you will have is, so you want to become a real estate investor. How much money is this going to cost
And
to do
people always
this?
ask that question, right? And so, like, the answer is we don't know until we know what your plans are, right? What your
Mhm.
plans are with the type of property that you're planning on buying. You're a first-time investor. You may not buy a $300,000 or $400,000 home. You may buy yourself a small condo that costs you $100,000 to $150,000 or $200,000. So, how much money you need really is going to depend on your goals. So, as a first time investor, the first thing that you want to do is write down your ultimate goal with investing, because investing encompasses a lot, right? You have purchasing where you're holding property, fix and flipping. So there's different avenues. So how much money do I need depends on your goal. But let's just come up with a made up scenario to
Mhm.
give you an idea, right? Let's say we're buying a condo. And I'm just going to use $100,000 because it's
Yeah.
a nice, easy number to use.
Mhm.
You're going to need 15 to 20% down. Okay. Buying this condo. So that means 15,000 to $20,000 for your down payment, right? Plus closing costs. Closing costs looks like property taxes, homeowners insurance, title fees.
Mhm.
That's another 3 to 5% of your purchase price. So another maybe $5 or $6,000. So on $100,000 loan, you need to be prepared to have about $20 to $25,000, right?
Mhm.
Now, we're and I'm talking like you're an investor and you're going in to invest, right? Because
Mhm.
there's ways to invest in real estate, and I use that word loosely, where you can buy a regular home, live there for a year, rent it out. We're not talking about that today.
Right.
We're talking about the individual who wants to go and buy a property as an investment property, and they're just going straight out and doing it.
Mhm.
So the first thing first is, you come up with your goal. What is your goal with your real estate? And then, the truth of the matter is you got to have some money. right? You need
Mhm.
money. You
Yeah.
need some money.
Now, yes. Okay. So along that line, for those who already own a home and they have equity in their home, do you find that folks will leverage the equity in their home to buy an investment property?
All the
How could
time.
they do that?
People do that all the time. Where if you have real estate that you currently own and you
Mhm.
have equity in that home, you can take that equity out to use that to purchase additional real estate. I just had a client recently, they bought land
Mhm.
and they had several lots that they planned on building several duplexes on these lots, and so they needed like $200,000, and they didn't have that much money. We took out the equity in their home because they had been in their home for a really long time,
Mhm.
so they were doing a big project. But we took that equity out of their home for them to be able to build, to have their down payment, so that we can build these properties for them. I get clients, you can do a cash out refinance where you take the cash out of your home by refinancing it,
Mhm.
or you can do something called a HELOC, home equity line of credit, where you just pull the equity out of your home without touching your first mortgage. Not to confuse anyone, but there are just different ways that you can take out money out of a primary home or an investment property that you own. So if you own a home, own another piece of property that you can pull money out of, property that maybe you're inherited, any type of real estate, you can get money out of that and use that to purchase additional real estate.
Okay. All right. Great. So some of the folks on my live today and just within my own pipeline are foreign nationals. Talk to us a little bit about what loan programs may be available for those who live overseas and they'd like to buy real estate here in the US.
So there are foreign national loans which are available for people who don't live here. Obviously, it's very lenient in regards to you qualifying, but you do need to have a larger amount down.
Mhm.
Typically, 30% is the down payment requirement. Now, depending on the lender, but most of my lenders, we don't need U.S. credit. Okay. Obviously, you don't need income in the United States,
Mhm.
right? You need, the most important thing is that money down, right? So
Mhm.
30% down, and that money has to be in a US bank account. So
Got
what'll happen is if you have the money and it's in your country, then you're going to have to transfer that money into a US bank account. And that money has to be in that bank account typically for 2 to 3 weeks prior to us closing out. Okay. So you'll have to open up a US account and put that money in there. And the reason for that is because when you open up a US bank account, there's certain parameters that a bank is going to gather from you as an
Mhm.
individual. So that kind of covers like your qualifying part of
Sure.
for the lender's sake, to make sure like, hey, you're a legitimate person. The bank has done whatever they're supposed to do to gather like your personal information to make sure you're legit and that money's in your U.S. account. And typically with a foreign national who's looking to invest in a property in the United States, we're doing something similar to like a DSCR loan type product, where we use the product to qualify that that loan product. So we're not using their income or their credit to qualify them. We're using the property itself to qualify them.
Okay. And just a little bit about the DSCR loan, Arlesia. Can you just touch on one of the really cool features of it where, they're able to leverage the rental income?
Yeah, so the
Mhm.
DSCR loan, you're able to leverage your rental income that is currently receiving or projected based on a rent schedule that we would do by conducting an appraisal to determine what the rent is going to be on that particular property. And that then becomes the property's income. And that is how we would qualify you to purchase that property. We would look at that rent and say, hey, is the rent equal to or more than what this mortgage payment will be? And if it is, then that is a way for you as a foreign national or just an investor, period, to be able to buy real estate if you don't have income to qualify you. And by income, I just mean income on paper, right? You may be self-employed, you
Yeah.
may be writing up all your money, things like that. Then a DSCR loan is perfect for you. And it's, if you're a foreign national, the same way that we qualify, someone stateside, we can still qualify you using a DSCR as a foreign national as well.
Okay. All right. Great. And so I know you mentioned that we don't need any US credit. So just in terms of documentation, what documents would foreign nationals need to
So
provide?
with foreign nationals, you need to, now you don't need to, but it's wise.
Okay.
You're going to need to probably, you'll just need like your passport, your visa, as far as identification goes, your US bank account with your funds in them. We would also get like a verification or a balance letter from wherever your money currently is sitting at. And then we would verify those funds are transferred over to your US account. And that's pretty much it for a foreign national as far as documentation is going. Hi Mara. I don't know how easy it is to open up a US account, right? I don't work at the bank, so I'm not really sure
So
for foreign national.
draw, drawing on my banking days, I can tell you it's relatively easy. Pretty much you will need your passport, you will need a valid passport and US visa. You will need both of that. And just kind of depending on the bank, they'll have different minimum opening requirements. But that's usually it.
Yeah,
Typically two forms of ID.
two forms of
Passport,
ID, right?
yeah, passport and visa definitely has got to be, yeah,
Valid.
a part
So,
of it. Yep.
and so being with the foreign national product, I think that's kind of like I said at the beginning, that's the way for the lender to say, hey, like that's a check and balance system for them
Right.
to vet that the funds are legitimate and the person is a legitimate person because the bank is going to verify that they open up this account with the proper identification.
Right.
And
Um, Go ahead, Alicia.
now I was going to say, and no, you do not need, there's no
Mhm.
employment income required. And
Mhm.
do you hear that noise in the
I do.
background? That's
But it's
my daughter
great.
playing Fortnite. She playing Fortnite on this. I told her she's
Um,
13 years old. I said, you need to be quiet, girl. I'm on the phone. I'm on the She playing Fortnite. I'm sorry, y'all. Okay.
all right. So, what would the interest rate be based on?
So obviously so I always tell people, right? Interest rate is based on it be your own kids that do. So interest rates are always based on risk, right? So this is a foreign national loan, right? If you do foreign national or you're just doing an investment loan, period, there's layers of risk to this. It's not going to be the, prevailing rate that someone is going to get who's buying a home that they're living in. Okay. Your rate is going to be a higher interest rate. And by higher, I mean, probably somewhere between like high eights, nines, as far
Mhm.
as this loan product goes, especially for a foreign national, because there's more risk involved with it. You are not a US citizen. Like you know, the likelihood that you put 30% down and foreclose on your property, it's probably slim to none, which is why they have you put so much skin into the game,
Mhm.
okay, with the extra down payment. But there's still a layer of risk because, this isn't a primary home and you're not a US citizen.
Mhm.
So if something was to go, if you're going to let something go, we're going to let this property go that I'm not living in, that's
Correct.
not even in my home country, right? So there's a layer of risk to that. And now, with these products that get you your foot in the door, if you're now going to have US income, right? Because you're going to have a tenant living in a property that is in the United States. You do not, now I don't know if you have that tax question is a tax professional person question, but I would assume that you would want to file your taxes in the United States because you can then claim US income on US taxes and you can use those tax returns to allow you to be able to refinance that property um, into a different type of mortgage product
Mm.
that no longer is using like the property itself. So I know that there's like a form on your tax returns, like if you're not a United, you got to ask a tax professional. I don't know all the details, but I know you
Yeah.
can do it because I've had a client do it before. Who has foreign income or who's getting income and they're not a U.S. citizen, where they use that income to help them qualify for a regular mortgage or let me just say not a regular mortgage because this is a 30-year fix, but that you can get out of this like investment product where you can lower your interest rate.
Okay.
But we have
And
to get a we got to get a tax
tax
person to get real
prepared, right.
specific. Yes.
Yeah. For sure. And what about a Canadian citizen? How are they treated?
Yep. So it would be the same
Okay.
process, SEP. What and we actually can use it would be the same process that I just mentioned earlier from Jamaica, Canada.
Hmm.
You would get your passport, visa, whatever
Hmm.
your documentation is for ID, and then your funds down. Now some Canadians we're able to pull like a credit report. So
Hmm.
if we are, that does kind of help a little bit as far as interest rate goes, and then what particular lender I would take you to, because as a broker, I have multiple ones. So some Canadians have credit reports that we can actually pull, like a Canadian credit report. So that will benefit you just in terms of like your interest rate and maybe being able to navigate to a lender who will allow me to use your Canadian credit report to help you qualify for a slightly lower interest rate. Nothing drastic. We're not talking like, maybe somebody was getting a 9.5 and now you're getting a 7,
Right.
maybe they're, but it could help and it can um, open up some more lenders who maybe somebody with a different, like in Jamaica, I don't have an avenue to pull a credit report or whatever kind of report
Right.
in Jamaica,
Hmm.
but I do have a route to pull a Canadian credit report, so that could help then. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for us?
I will say
Mhm.
though, if you are definitely if you are a foreign national, and you're buying or just an investor, period. I know this is tips for investors and we asked about foreign nationals, is that one of the things that you kind of want to do is set you up an entity that you can put your investment property in.
Mhm.
So let's say, each property can sit in its own entity if you wanted to, right? But setting you up an entity to put your investment property in would be a good rule of thumb, especially as a first time investor, especially as someone who wants to build their business credit. To leverage, getting additional financing in the future, and funding is creating an entity to hold your real estate in would probably be up top where I say you find out what your goal is, what type of property you want to look at. That next step,
Mhm.
once you figure that out, is getting your documentation in order, right? I can't tell you how many people just don't have their paperwork in order. So having an entity, coming up with, registering your business, having your business license, having your operating agreement, your LLC docs, your corporation docs, depending on what type of business structure you have. If you're, most likely going to be an LLC, so having your um, documentation and operating agreement together so that when you buy your property, you can then put that property in your business name, which alleviates risk from you as an individual, right? Especially if it's a rental property, somebody's staying there for rent. You
Mhm.
want to make sure that you're covered because you don't want them to sue you. You want them to sue the business, right? And business that you can dissolve. Okay. Okay.
Mhm. Yep.
So right up top with, goals, next thing, I got my goals together. Let me get my documentation in order because I want to ask for it, especially if you say, oh, I want to put this in my business name. I need, okay, well, where's your paperwork? And a lot of times people they haven't even done the step of getting it. And you need a business account in your business name. You need your um, your business registered with your state. You know, you need all addresses must match. Okay. So you may have to get you a P.O. box or like a virtual box, you know, for a virtual box. You don't want to use your home address, obviously, when you're conducting business. Okay. So all those things matter as a first time investor.
Okay. All right. So now, what if an individual has a group of friends and they now decide to partner to invest together
Okay. So
in terms, mhm.
what you
Walk us through
can
that.
do,
Hmm.
right where what I just said was probably going to be number one for y'all is you definitely going to need to get your entity
Yes.
structured with your operating agreement together, because we
Hmm.
need to know how much does every person own in that business, right? I was just asked about someone who has a property in a business name,
Hmm.
and someone owns 49% and someone owns 51%. And so whoever is the majority owner is the owner, right?
Hmm.
So if there's a group of people, you need to split it equally among everybody so that everybody is a equal owner in the property. Is somebody going to be a majority owner, or somebody going to own less or more based on how much money they put into the property, right? All of those things matter, but you definitely can do that. Now, when you do own a property and it's a group of you alls, then you wanted to figure out, well, who's going to go on the mortgage note? Who's going to go on the loan? Who's going to be the qualifying person for us? Because when you have a group of individuals, we're not taking everybody's credit. We're not
Hmm.
running everybody's credit. We're not using everybody who owns the business to buy the real estate. So somebody will be the person or two, um, depending on how many people are in the group, right? Who's going to own that property on paper. So there's going to be someone's credit score that we're going to want to use.
Hmm.
And typically you want it to be the person with the best score, right? Hopefully that person has the best score, so that we can get the best interest rate for the group of you, for the, the group, for the group, right? So depending on how many people in there, that needs to be discussed, because the note is going to be in that person's name, right? That person's, even though that's going to be in the business, there's a guarantor, right? So because somebody has to still be responsible if things go left, who are they going to come after? So that person you need to have that discussion, right? And how that's going to look on paperwork. Now, even though, so again, you all equally own a business, the business own the real estate, but somebody is always, when people say, "Oh, I got it in my business name," somebody's always a personal guarantor.
Hmm.
Nobody just allows you to put it in a business name, no matter really what you do. If you're buying a car or anything, there's still a personal guarantor in the back end that guarantors that the business is going to pay the business debt. Okay. And so that person is going to be the person responsible for the note, the loan, should anything default. So you want to be very clear within your operating agreement on how that all looks if you're planning on doing this with multiple people.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other questions for us?
I was going back to look.
Yeah. Like, I think we got them all.
Yeah, and as you guys are, think again, you're thinking about purchasing real estate
Mhm.
as an investor, again, the most important thing that you need to know is that, hey, you're going to need money. I know a lot of times people get on social media and, people make these reels where they say like snippets of something and you don't really know the full thing about, well, they said you can buy a house with no income. Yeah,
Right.
you can, but now you need 20% down.
Now.
You know, or they said you don't need credit or you don't need this, yeah, all of those things can be true, but what a lot of times you're not hearing from these reels when you do see them on social media is that those loans are riskier and they require a larger amount down.
Mhm.
So if you are like a U.S. citizen and you're buying an investment property, 15 to 20% down. If you are a foreign national, 30% down. And honestly, 15 to 20% down, depending on the loan product.
Mhm.
If it's like an investment loan where we're using no income to qualify you, like a DSCR loan, then that can be 20 to 20, that can be 15 to 25%. Now, now, there's another way that you can kind of get into buying what we would call an investment home slash second home, where you can only really like Airbnb it or short-term rental it because you do need to stay in that second home at least 14 days out of the year.
Okay.
Okay. But
So,
you could buy a second
uh-huh.
home. Now, this would not qualify for like a foreign national, wouldn't be able to do anything like this with this
Okay.
type of loan.
So U.S. citizen
Um,
only.
a U.S. citizen, and we would have to use, this is a traditional mortgage where we take your tax returns into
Okay.
consideration. Okay, so you have to be able to afford it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but a second home would be where you can do as little as 10% down. And there are stipulations, right? So you just can't buy a second home anywhere. Typically, they want it to be what a second home would be, which means
Hmm.
it's not near you where you currently live, like a different state.
Right.
Or it's if it is near you, is it on a beach? Is it on water? Is it lakefront? Is it the characteristics of a second home? Right? And then those are properties where like something like, oh, I'm going to Airbnb this because you have to still live, you have to still visit your second home. You can't put a tenant in there, for a whole year because then that is considered an investment property.
Got it.
But we do vet to make sure that the second home is really a second home. We're going to look at that property. Again, like I said, if you live in Florida, it's not going to be a property near you unless it's sitting directly on the beach.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's a second home, is literally a second home, which means it's somewhere else. It's a vacation home. Exactly. It needs to look like a vacation home and needs to be where you go and take vacation. I live in Broward. I want to buy me a second home in Palm Beach County. Nah, I don't think so. Yeah, Linda gonna say, So, but that's something to think about because
Hmm.
that is a way where you can buy you an additional property that, let's say you're visiting, you always visit in New Jersey, but you're from Florida. Okay, then yeah, that can be considered a vacation home because you're always going to New Jersey and you can do something like 10% down
Hmm.
where, it's not considered quote unquote an investment property because you're not renting it out 12 months out of the year.
Got it.
Yeah.
Now, going back to, you made me think of this when you mentioned the 14 days and just not being able to use it. Is it still where folks can use 75% of the rental income? So if
Yeah. Hmm.
I own a home, I have an investment property, I can take 75% of the rental income to contribute towards qualifying for that investment
So
property.
wait. Ask the question
Okay.
again. Let me see. Ask it
So
again.
so without without going the DSCR route,
Uh-huh.
right?
Hmm.
I've heard that there are lenders who will allow you to buy an investment property. So this is where you're being fully vetted, right?
Okay.
In terms
Traditional
of
mortgage. Hmm.
traditional mortgage. So I'm showing my income, tax returns, the whole nine yards, right? And I'm buying an investment property. Is it still the
Yes.
case where you can use 75% of that income towards
So
qualifying?
yeah, so if you're buying an investment property and you're going with a traditional mortgage, you can use the rental income from that property to qualify you to buy the home that you're buying. Or if it's rented out, you can also use the lease to qualify you. You can only use it to offset your payment, right? So it's
Hmm.
not additional income, but
Hmm.
it can be used to help you qualify for that property. I just had a client bought a property in Georgia. He only made like $800 a month in
Okay.
like Social Security,
Talk to us
right?
about this.
He only made $800 in Social Security, but he had absolutely no debt
Uh-huh.
at all. Okay. He owned a home, you all, that was in his business name.
Mm-hmm.
paid in full in his business name. And because it was in his business name, his taxes on the property were in the business name. So we didn't have to count it against him on his personal
Right.
credit. And he only made $800 a month. He bought a almost $300,000 property because
Mm-hmm.
we used the rent from the rental schedule. So we did an
Mm-hmm.
appraisal, and the appraisal came back and said, "Hey, this is how much rent this property is projected to make." We used that to qualify him to buy that home.
Wow.
I mean, it was one of those situations where you're like, I mean, you make $800 a month. Like, what can you buy? You make $800 a month. What can you buy? Absolutely nothing for, I mean, because you make $800, you can only
Right.
use technically about half of that to qualify you. So you got $400 a month in qualifying income that we can use. But anyway, he bought this property because we used the rental income as income to help qualify him to buy that home. And
Wow.
so he closed on a home, and I already had a tenant that was like lined up to move into it,
Mm-hmm.
and bought himself an investment property.
Very
He's an
nice.
older guy, was kind of just looking to buy real estate so he can, retire with a little bit more income. And surely, so you definitely can do that. So, and you can do that. So that particular way of doing it, you can do. And then
Mm-hmm.
also, if you own a home and want to buy another home and turn your home into an investment property as well,
Mm-hmm.
you can do that
Right.
too. So you can take a lease on the property that you're
Living in.
exiting out
Mm-hmm.
of, and that can offset that payment so that you can buy another home. So this goes back to where I say, like, you are looking to be a first time investor. That doesn't mean that you're not a first time. That doesn't mean that you don't own a home, right? Because you can be a first time investor and own a primary home, or you can be a first time investor and have never bought real estate before in your
Mm-hmm.
life, right? So when I talked at the beginning about you need to sit down and know your goals, you need to know, what do I want to do and accomplish with buying real estate? And you need to be specific because that'll allow your lender to, help you carve out a path that makes sense for you to take.
Right. And that's a very good point, Arlesia, where, turning your what is now your primary residence into your rental property. So even from a down payment standpoint, because you'd be now purchasing another primary, that takes away that initial 20% where a lot of folks may have a hard time raising that to where now we're back to FHA conventional 3.5 to 5%, right?
We definitely are, and there are some rules behind it, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
there are some stipulations, but yes, it definitely does. Now what you're not going to do, you can't, you got to say this because, people
Yes.
get online and they think we can do anything. But, let's say you living in a 5 bedroom house, okay? You're
Mm-hmm.
not gonna go and try to buy a 3 bedroom house and say, "Well, I'm leaving this. It's gonna be an investment," because the lender's gonna say, "I think you're lying." Unless, let's say, you could be downgrading. So let's just say you can prove, like, my kids are going to college. I don't need a 5 bedroom house anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that makes sense. But if you can't prove something like that, you just can't do it. So I had a client one time, they lived in a single family home, wanted to buy a duplex. I said, tell the truth, shame that devil, okay? I'm like, you know you don't want
Right.
to live in this duplex. I'm gonna live in it. I promise. I'm gonna live there for a year. I said, well, you may be telling the truth, but the lender, they've been doing this a really long
Right.
time. And I don't think they're gonna believe you, sir. I'm like, they're not gonna believe. I said, you may be telling the truth, okay? And I'm not saying you lying, but they're not gonna believe that you're leaving your single family house, 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom, to go live in a
Right.
duplex because you only want to do 3.5%. They're not gonna believe it,
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's say you had already had that house rented out and then you were just buying a duplex. That's different. But you talking about leaving the house to go to a duplex? No. So there are rules behind it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The lender has been doing this for umpteen years. Okay. They're not new to it. They are literally true to it. Okay. And so they understand those rules. But when you play the game of real estate correctly, let's say you got a home, now you're looking to upgrade, you want to get a bigger home, and you want to keep that home that you have, you can do
Mhm.
that. You can buy your next home and do just 5% down on a conventional product, on a loan, conventional loan. Okay. You can do 5% down and buy your next property. And so that will allow you to rent out that home, buy your next home with minimum down, as long as you can afford to hold all these mortgages and your numbers work with excluding anything that needs to be excluded, then that's the best way to, build your portfolio with real estate. People do it all the time,
Sure.
literally all the time.
Sure. All right.
Any
Well,
other questions you guys have? We run on
I know.
schedule. I like being
Oh,
on
yes, we are. So Thanksgiving, are you cooking?
I am cooking. I'm cooking.
Yeah.
I told my family, I say, yeah, I better make sure that kitchen is clean and we're not eating until the kids say, what's for dinner tonight? I said, nothing. I said, Thanksgiving Thursday. What you mean? They said, Mama, that's in 2 days. I'm like, yeah, we gonna starve until then. Okay. I'm like, I really don't want to cook until Thanksgiving Day. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Okay.
start cooking tomorrow night. Wednesday
Okay.
night, I'll put my desserts on. So
Gotcha.
I'll put my desserts on. And I'll wake up early on
Mhm.
Thanksgiving and cook majority of my food. Some people like start cooking on Sunday.
Yeah.
Are you
Day
cooking?
before. I'll be
The,
doing a little bit of cooking, just a little
okay.
bit.
You got people coming over,
No, I
or
may go to a friend's house.
okay, so you
Yeah.
bringing a dish.
Yeah.
So it's at my house. So I'm cooking everything that's on the menu to be
Oh, yes,
cooked.
yes, yes, yes.
And my kids are older. I told them they got to come in the kitchen and help. I'm
Yeah.
like, you guys got to come help this year. Like, cut up some
Do
vegetables,
something.
stir something, okay? Everybody's like, I'm so excited. I'm ready to eat.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, I know, because you're not helping to cook nothing. I know. Well, my husband is making the turkey, so
Oh, good. Yeah.
we're gonna fry the turkey. This is our first time frying it. Pray for us. I told him
Oh.
to get a table and put in the backyard, in the middle of the backyard.
Right.
I done seen too many videos.
Right? Yes.
Yeah, with the turkeys. I'm like, did you watch YouTube videos on how to do this, sir? I'm serious. I'm serious about the YouTube videos. But yeah, but I mean, listen, this was such a pleasure speaking with you,
Yes.
Simone.
You
If
too.
anybody thinks of anything that we didn't discuss,
Yes.
please
Of
feel free to reach
course.
out to Simone, for her to reach out to me. I would love to
Yeah.
answer. Um, I would love to answer or help anybody who has any questions. I wholeheartedly believe that real estate is the fastest, easiest, and best way
Mhm.
to help a generation build wealth, because you got to go to sleep. You have to sleep and you have to wake up and go to sleep somewhere.
Yes.
Why not do it in a home that you own, that can help you catapult and build wealth?
Sure.
And so we've bought and sold several homes. I've seen my clients buy and sell several homes where they have made
Hmm.
crazy money with
Yeah.
real estate. And so I hope this live, give you guys a boost, a push to step out there and buy. People are still buying. People are buying investment properties today. People are buying investment properties yesterday, 6 months ago, all this year, all last year. No matter how crazy the market has been, people have continued to buy real estate because they understand that whatever goes up, whatever comes down will go back up, and vice versa. And so they understand that no matter what happens in the market, you'll still get appreciation in your property. And so just I'm just saying that to say, don't sit on the sideline wondering, oh man, I'm scared to buy, I'm scared to buy. Buy your property, hold your
Mhm.
property, and allow yourself to build wealth through real estate.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because you can only make on your job what you make on your job, right? On your
That's it.
job, you get paid $50,000 a year. That's
Right.
all you're gonna make.
Right.
Not a dime more.
2% each year,
That's it.
not doing anything, but
That's
the
it.
equity, the
It's going to
equity.
appreciate,
Hmm.
and it's going to appreciate astronomically. It's
Yeah.
crazy. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So
All
it's a pleasure.
right.
You
Yes.
know, I've been on the live run with y'all lately. So anyway.
Yes. Yes. Thanks,
Okay,
Arlesia. You're
guys. Well, thank you
awesome.
guys.
Yes. Happy
And you guys can,
Thanksgiving,
if you have any
everybody.
questions, yeah, my contact information is in my bio as well.
Yes.
All
Thanks,
right. You're
Arlesia.
welcome, Simone.
All right. Have a good night. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you guys.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.